So before you do anything with electricity, like putting in a horn, you want to disconnect the battery right here. And the way you do disconnect the battery is just disconnect the negative terminal from the battery. Hello everybody. We are back in my garage. And today is another special day because we will be doing an install of this. Hella Sharptones. You see that? They're going on this car today. I'm going to try to mount them in a way that you'll be able to see them in the grill and behind there. So that's what we're doing today. And I also have my friend Mario here to help me today.
Yeah, proud and pledged from the township of Clifford, not too far from Carbondale. That's where I reside. That's where I reside.
Shut the fuck up. You might be thinking, oh, cool, they're going to open the hood, they're going to rip off the bumper and try to get in there and screw with the wiring and all that. And although I am pretty good with wiring, I have never taken off the bumper on a car before. How is that not true? Dude, I put the push start in my BMW. I wired that shit in there. No, he didn't help me at all. He did not help me one bit. Alright, so we're going to be trying to take off this bumper, which there's some clips underneath, I'm sure, and there's probably some in the wheel well and probably some up there. I really don't know how to take it off. Once we get the bumper off is when we're going to start figuring out where we want to put the horns and how all of that stuff gets wired up.
Matt, I really wish I knew why you record these videos.
Because it's something that I enjoy doing. Is it focus? Yeah? You're sure? You're sure this isn't focus? Alright, so this is the horn, Hella Sharptones. I like the way these sound better than the Supertones everybody gets, so this is why I got these. We're going to unbox this right now. So what you get in the box when you get the Hella Sharptones, wow, these are way bigger than I thought. You get a relay, then you get the horns. There's one of them there. Kind of way bigger than I thought they would be. There's actually, when you get these, there's a high frequency and a low frequency. I don't know which is which, but I don't really care. And that's it. Now we're just going to pop the hood and try to start figuring this shit out. Oh, bro. I really hope that you don't have to take out the headlights to do this. I don't know why, I just really don't want to do that. There's definitely some pins that you're going to have to take out in the wheel well. There's definitely some you're going to have to take out under here, and there's definitely some that you're going to have to take out underneath. Before we actually get started with installing the horn, I want to give you guys a before and after. Because like I said, the horn on this Veloster is it's a bitchy horn. It doesn't threaten anybody, it's not going to get anyone to stop doing what they're doing. They're probably just going to get more mad at you because you're honking at them with such a bitchy horn. And as you can see, that horn is awful. It sounds like a clown car horn. It sounds like the horn that fucking Ronald McDonald would use when he's driving up to McDonald's trying to pick up all the little boys from getting their Happy Meal. So let's try to take this apart. They're gonna be able to hear it. Stop. So I'm just gonna try to take all of these bolts off right in here. Take this cover off so that I can see exactly. So there's a bolt right there in the wheel well, and there's one on the other side too, and that looks like it's the only bolt right here that I can see, so.
You would have known if I farted.
I think I'm going to end up having to take off these headlights, but I don't think they're going to be too hard to get out. It looks like I can only see 2 bolts attached to the headlight. We're still trying to figure out how to get this headlight out. So there's actually a bunch of different shit under here, so I'm in the middle of figuring out what needs to come off. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to take out those bolts right there. There's 4 of them that go across the bottom of the cover. Okay, so I got all 4 of these bolts out, but
damn, you almost ran me over, yo.
The bumper is still like pretty tight. I don't know what else, like where else there are bolts that need to come out. So it looks like it's only being held on, right? That looks like it's only being like held on right in here.
What's the way there?
What?
What? What'd you say?
They're over there talking shit.
I'm not talking shit. Who am I talking shit to, Matt?
Right, so I just found out that there's actually a few things that go into pulling off the front bumper. Apparently, you don't actually need to take out the light. I haven't tried to pull it off yet. Under here, if you see those holes right there, there's one there and there's one at the end. You need to take those clips out. They're like plastic clips, and there's 2 on the other side too. And then under here, there's actually this piece. there's 3 bolts that hold this on. 1 right there and 2 on the other sides. You need to take those out. So according to the information that I just found out, this should just come right off. Uh-oh, okay. Didn't sound too good. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Here's the horn right here. This looks like it's the only horn. Yeah, this is the only horn. As you can see, we got the bumper off. It's scary to get the bumper off because you're ripping pieces apart and it makes scary noises and
snapping plastic.
And we're gonna try to move this wire, extend it kind of over into here or up here somewhere. Maybe like right here, you know what I mean? Like get them right here in the middle. I'm just trying to figure out where exactly I want these to go. I think maybe if I use one of these screws, I'll be able to mount it there, like there's space there, there's space there. That would work. So after like 20 minutes of screwing around with it, I finally figured out where I want these to go. It's weird on the Veloster because there's really nowhere to mount these, and the stock horn, the original horn, I don't know if you can see that, is right there. This is the original horn, and there's really nowhere to mount these ones. Now, originally I came over here and I saw this. This is the intercooler right here. It goes down all the way down into here, and that's the intercooler, like for the cool air and stuff. And I didn't want to block this, but I realized that I'm only blocking probably 1/3 of it overall, which isn't too bad. So I'm only blocking about 1/3 of the intercooler. I was able to mount it to that bolt right there. Of course you want them to be equal, like, you know, from side to side. You want it like from the middle of the car. From the middle of the car you want them to be equally distanced, each horn. So the other one I wanted to mount over here. And the only problem with that is there's really nowhere to mount it. So what I ended up doing, and you can hate me if you want, but fuck you, this is what I did. So if you can see that, this is the mount for the horn. And I was going to try to use this bolt right here, but I didn't want to take that off because that's obviously some kind of pressure line for the radiator. I didn't want to take that off. And I didn't really want to try to drill any holes or anything. I really didn't want to do that. So I just found an easy solution, and that is zip ties. You may hate me, you may think this is a good idea, I don't know, this is the way that I found to do it, and it's a pretty solid hold, like it's not moving. Now the stage that we're at is I need to start figuring out the wiring, and the way that I'm going to do this is it's going to be a little bit kind of simple, but not simple at the same time. The Hella Sharptone comes with 2 horns and the relay, and that's all that it comes with. There's no instructions. Now, I've used a relay before. I've wired one in before on a different car, but I don't really know exactly how it goes. So I'm going to have to look up like a wiring diagram on how the relay will go. But pretty much what I'm going to do is I might put the relay back in there on one of those bolts. I'm going to have to run the wires from the relay, which is going to be over here, to each horn. So there's that one and there's that one. So then what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to take the wires from the relay and run them down behind this bumper here and then kind of bring them up through and then wire them in that way. Like I said, I don't want to ghetto this car up too much, and the zip ties is enough ghettoing up for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started on figuring out where I want these wires to go and how I'm going to have to hook up the relay. Once that's done, then it's pretty easy. All you got to do is throw the bumper cover back on and test it out. So I'm going to get started on the wiring. So I got some wire here. You don't really want to use anything lower than probably 14 gauge. I have some 12 gauge here. If the wire is too small and too much current goes through it, it'll like burn the wire and burn the casing around the wire and start a fire, and it's hard to stop it. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough wire. I'm probably gonna have to run to Advanced Auto or Napa or something and try to get some wiring tools. Every garage should have a pair of these. These are the best wire strippers ever, and you can't just get any shitty brand. This is by Southwire. So the way these work is you pick your wire size in here. There's a plate here with all these wire sizes. I have a pretty big wire here, so I'm gonna put it in the biggest slot, and I'm just gonna strip it, and that's how it works. So easy.
Let's see the profile of that.
What do you mean the profile? Fuck you. We're gonna head to Advanced Auto and pick up some stuff, and we'll be back in a minute. So me and Mario are on our way to Advanced Auto. So we're on the way to Advanced. Mario was just telling the story. Why don't you tell them your story, Mario?
About what?
About you walking around town.
I've been having some bad acne, I guess. And I went to the doctor, I got an acne prescription. So today was my first day testing it out, so I put it on. I say to myself as I'm putting it on, I'm like, all right, 15 minutes, I'm gonna come back downstairs and wash the shit off my face before I go out the door. So basically I was walking around Scranton with all this white pasty shit all over my face that was acne cream. Probably looking like a fucked, whacked out crackhead or something.
So Mario was walking around
with white, like
walking
just
around the city with
all
pretty
over
much toothpaste all over his face.
That's what.
And he didn't even notice until he was walking by a car and happened to check his like reflection in the mirror. And that's the kind of person Mario is.
And then I washed it off with snow.
So we just got back from Advanced Auto. Show you guys what we got. So got some more zip ties because I'm gonna need more of those. I got some of this stuff. It's called brush on electrical tape. If you see that. The reason that I got this is because it's good for like a weatherproof seal. So I'm gonna brush, once I finish wiring everything together on the relay, I'm gonna brush the whole, like all the connections on the relay with this, and that should keep it, you know, pretty watertight. So that's why I got that. More wire, I got red and black because it just makes things easier when you're trying to wire everything together so you don't get the wires confused. Weatherproof connectors. I looked it up online because I don't really, like I said, I've done wiring before, but I'm not a professional. And I looked it up online and I found this. What this is telling me is I actually, for some reason, need to run it from the battery. And I'm going to need a fuse. So it shows you, I mean, the wiring's pretty simple, but it just looks like I'm going to end up having to go back to Advanced Auto and getting a fuse because I don't have any of those laying around. Before I go do that, I'm going to work on getting the rest of this stuff wired up. And then hopefully once I get all that shit wired up, then I'll go to Advanced, I'll get the fuse, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so following this diagram, I'm just going to start soldering some of these connections onto the relay. I'm going to start with the connection for the new horns first. That's like the most straightforward one right now. So I'm just going to start with the connection for the new horn first. I'm just going to leave a bunch of wire hanging off the end. The way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to take this wire and I'm going to run it through the 87 port on here. And this is going to be the positive wire for my new horns. I mean, it is a pretty good connection. It's never going to come off. And you want to make sure that you get those soldered on there pretty well, because you don't ever want these to come off and like spark off against anything else. So we just got back from our second trip on this project to Advanced Auto to get a, how to get an inline fuse. So it's just a wire. Just a wire, and in the middle there's like a fuse housing. And then I got this one because it closes and it's waterproof, and I don't want it because I don't want anything to get wet. So now I have to install this from the battery to my relay. This is being way more complicated than I thought it was going to be. The first thing is you got to find out somewhere to put your horns, and I chose one right here and one right here. And you already saw how I chose to put those on. So that's number one. You got to figure out where you put your horns. Number two.
Number two is use zip ties.
Once you figure out where to put your horns and you figure out how to fasten them, you got to figure out what you're going to do with your wiring and how you're going to lay it out so that it's not being unsightly in the car. So the way that I did my wiring is, well, one of the main wires is you need to have a wire coming from the positive terminal on the battery all the way down into your relay. This is where I chose to mount my relay. Right here, this is like a radiator support mount or something like that. This is what I chose to mount my relay to. And this is probably the best bet that I found, at least. There really was nowhere better. So this is where I chose to put my relay. And you can see I used all this brush on electrical tape. Once you have your wire from your battery to your relay, you're gonna need to run a positive wire to your horns. And the way that I did this is I just cut a little notch out of the casing of this wire and spliced it so that I would be able to run one wire to both horns. For like cable management down here, what I did is I took the wires from the horns, and if you see this is like a I don't even know what it is, like a bump on top of the actual bumper here, and this is hollowed out. And I actually took my wires, I ran them in through here, it comes out right there, so you won't ever see it when the bumper's on. Once you get the positive wire on your horns, you're gonna need somewhere to ground them out. And I chose right in here, there's a bumper mount right here. This bumper mounts onto here. This is where it connects to like the frame of the car. And right here is where I chose to ground out my horn. And there's another one on the other side, so that's where those horns are grounded to, because that's the closest bolt to where I chose to put the horns. The output that goes to the stock horn switch, this wire comes all the way down and connects to the gray wire from your stock horn wiring harness. Got to be the gray wire because that's the wire that gets power for the stock horn. And then once all of that is done, you want to take a ground wire wire from, I forget what number terminal this is too, but you want to take a ground wire of this whole system and ground it out somewhere. And I chose right in here. This was the most, this bolt right here, it's an engine support bolt. This is what holds the motor mounts into the car, and that was just a good bolt. It's exposed, doesn't have any paint on it, and that's the bolt that I chose to ground out the whole system. And I mean, it's probably going to be different for everybody. This is where I chose to put my horns, and it's going to be different depending on where you choose to put your horns, but I'm really happy with the way that it came out. Alright, so we got the bumper back on, and I'll tell you what, this took way longer than I was expecting it to. This took probably 5 hours or so. You know, it's just a bunch of tedious work. All in all, it's not too bad. It's easy to figure out, but I'm really, really happy with the way that it came out, and look how cool this looks from the front. That just looks so fucking mad. It's really not that visual of a mod. You really don't see it, but the times that you do see it, it really catches your eye and it just pops. It makes the whole front of the car pop when you do see it. Obviously, it's not something that people are going to be looking for, but you know, the right people will see it and the right people will think that it's pretty cool. This sounds way better than the stock horn, so. So we finally got the car finished. It's been, like I said, it's been a long time, but we finished it. And come here, Mario. Thanks to Mario for being a camera guy for some of it.
No problem.
And being a good moral support and helping me out with this. And I'll tell you what. Like I said, I'm really happy with the way that it came out. I could finally beep at people when they get in my way and not have to be like self-conscious about my horn, because the other horn is terrible. So hopefully you guys found this interesting.
What Matt's saying is he has small balls.
I have small balls. So again, this isn't, it's hard to make something like this so tedious and so like with the wiring and stuff interesting, but we got it done. I'm happy with it, and hopefully you guys might find this useful. Catch you guys next time.